number of people.
And I think I may, before we actually start, I think we might, I might just start live streaming to YouTube, so I don't have to do it before we start. Because there's a delay.
Right.
And so as people are just joining us, I want to let you know that we haven't started. So you can chat amongst yourselves or something.
I like your background screen, Jerry.
Yeah, I figured this is appropriate for today's talk.
It looks like you keep getting an infinity symbol behind you as the Aurora Borealis turns into an infinity symbol behind you.
Yeah, that's right. I gotta make sure that I am evolving as I give my talk.
Right, we're gonna set a vibration level that's pretty high, hopefully.
Yeah, because when I was doing the practice, Yolanka later told me that, you were at 30, you're off. And I
What? What was that?
immediately went to state that I'm evolving.
Oh.
That's the project we're involved in, right? The evolution of humanity, individually and together. So sure. Joachim has joined us.
Okay.
And if you want, sometimes when we're just waiting to start, I'll start in about a minute or two. But if sometimes if you want to just put in the chat where you're joining us from, that would be fun. And if you have questions during the meeting, go ahead and put them in the chat. Meg's gonna she will answer those either as they come in or after the meeting.
Right, I see. Daryl's on, Harry's on, Jacqueline's on. So a lot of people I know. Tara's on.
Daryl, I was gonna ask you, Daryl, are you in Minnesota? Hong Kong. My goodness.
Oh, Greg's on. JJ's on.
Hi, JJ. Indiana. Okay, so I am going to you can still keep putting your comments in there, and I'm gonna start live streaming to YouTube before we actually get started, so we don't have to do the delay thing.
Okay. I'm gonna get a glass of water while that happens. I'll just run downstairs and get a little water.
Thank you to everyone who's saying hello in the chat. Jacqueline, the presentation usually goes for about an hour, and then we can have question and answers for 15 minutes to 20, something like that. All right, so we are live streaming to YouTube, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started as people are continuing to join. Good evening, and whatever time zone you're in, and welcome. For those of you, I know we have a lot of people joining us for the first time today, so I just wanted to let you know a little bit about us. My name is Judy Kitt. I'm the president of the Foundation for Mind Being Research, also known as FMBR. FMBR was founded in 1980, so 44 years ago, by scientists and artists and healers who were interested in the nature of reality and of human consciousness. And so for 40 years, we gathered once a month in person in Palo Alto as sort of a forum for people who were doing research in this area. And it's, scientists, shamans, healers, anybody who, even psychics and mediums, people who are doing research and exploration in this space. And when the pandemic hit, like a lot of people, we moved online, and so we've really been able to create this wonderful community of people from all over who are all interested in the same thing. So recognizing that we're going through this very intense time of expansion and growth, and individually and societally and as a planet. We're really glad to be joining with you all in this community as we continue our explorations into the nature of humanity. So thank you for joining with us. Our website is fmbr.org, and all of our presentations, our past presentations, are on our YouTube channel, which is FMBR TV on YouTube. So check that out. So we have two speakers tonight. Most of you, I think, will know Jerry Jin, who is the chairman of FMBR. He has spent more than 55 years in the pharmaceutical, diagnostic, laboratory medicine, and biotechnology industries. His passionate interests have been in the areas of mind, being, consciousness, and the nature of reality, which is why we get along so well. He is the author of two books, The Seeker and the Teacher of Light, and Science, Subtle Energies, and Spirituality, A Path to I Am. And then Meg is a lifelong seeker of knowledge and truth. She and her family have been homesteading for almost 30 years. Self-sufficiency and living in harmony with nature have always been priorities, so she studied and applied natural healing modalities, gardening, foraging, cooking, microbial nutrition, mushrooms and herbs, natural building, natural horsemanship, and many crafts, including radiesthesia and vibrational healing, which is how she connected with Jerry. Meg and Jerry became friends in 2020 on a weekly Zoom meeting exploring subtle energies. And they've been working together ever since. And the two of them are working on a third book, which will, a lot of this information will be contained in the new book called The Birth of a New Humanity. And you can find that information on that on Jerry's YouTube channel, which he will share with us later. So welcome, Jerry and Meg. This is a really exciting topic. I think a lot of people are really interested, and I'm just going to turn it over to you and have you go for it.
Okay, well, I'm very happy to be here. And let me put click on share again, and click that. And okay, very good. Let me get rid of my picture here. And I'm very happy that all of you are here today to listen to a very exciting topic, because it truly is a birth of a new humanity that is going on. Things are happening in the world and within us, and many of us may have felt various things happening, and we'll try to relate to you what our observations have been over the past year. And this is just a slide that gives our background, which Judy has already talked about. So I'm not going to go through that, except to make a couple of statements. Just as the seeker and the teacher of light was really about the wonderful work of Joachim Wippich and his marvelous affirmations. The work here that we're talking about today, much of this work, I'd say most of this work, is from Meg. And she's an amazing researcher in terms of energy. And what I'm relating to you will be much of what she has done. Move this out of the way here. So, and yeah, we are writing a new book, but it'll take a little while to finish it, simply because there are so many things that are going on at this point in time. And they're changing day by day. And we've been following this for a year. So, and there's some websites that I have that are on this slide. So if you're looking at that, that'll be information that you have. Let's see. I will go through some definitions for those who are new to the field, but I'm not going to go into depth with regard to the definitions that you need to in order to understand the shift, because I've gone through this in other presentations. That's in some of the books that I have that's there, but you need enough information so that you have an inkling of what I'm talking about, but I won't go into the depth of that. And the definitions that you'll need to understand is the words resonance, radiesthesia, subtle energies, and measurements in order to fully understand what I'm talking about. And resonance is something that most of you know about anyways, and I'm not going to go through details on it, except if you hit a tuning fork or pluck a string on a monochord, it'll vibrate, and all energies or vibrations associated with that will also vibrate. And that is resonance, the concept of resonance. And the concept of resonance says that if you have a string of certain length centered by two ends, then that gives you the note. And the pendulum, which is our main tool, does the same thing. The length between your fingers and the weight is that W, which is the length of that string, and gives you the note. And you're now in resonance with all frequencies or tones or octaves that are related to that. So when you measure in energy, you're measuring all the resonance with any of this lengths that are W and all the octaves of it. And the other concept is that you are the tool, and it's not the pendulum is the tool. The pendulum is a tool to focus the energies, but you are the one who is observing it, and you're the one who will determine resonance with that. But you do this subconsciously. And you do this with pendulums. Typically, you do it with a neutral pendulum. And here are just some examples of neutral pendulums: acrylic ball, a ball that you make with dough and salt, or a wooden one. I'm not going to go into depth on radiesthesia, except that it's a mechanism in which you allow the energies or the recognition of energies from the right brain or the subconscious to flow into your body, into your hands, so that pendulum will rotate or go back and forth or do whatever it's going to do. And that's all you probably need to know about the definition of radiesthesia. And it happens automatically. If you're walking, you walk automatically. If you're moving a pendulum, once you learn the basic movements of it, it's all done automatically. Okay, in terms of subtle vibrational colors, and that's what we'll be talking about. And the colors are not necessarily the colors that are there when you look at the subtle energy of it. You're looking at the energies that are in resonance with that color. It'll be that color, but all the energies are in resonance with it, all the octaves. And you have typically 12 colors. Here we're showing 9 colors that are there, and I've abbreviated them from indigo, UV, etc., with the initials that are there for as abbreviations for those colors. And you can go to any of these colors and with a pendulum, pick up the resonance of that color. And you do that with a neutral pendulum and get the string length, the right length, and it'll go in a clockwise circle. And with that, you can determine the color. And with that, you can figure out the subtle colors that are associated with virtually anything. And there are other definitions here that I'll go through later on, like masculine and feminine, but and there's some new colors have shown up too. Ice blue and ice mauve, which are harmonics of other colors. And it's shown on the lower left-hand side. So those are colors that are there that are new into our viewing of what they are. And just so that you know what how to do this, I'll just briefly explain it. If you have a pendulum and you want to know the subtle energy of red, you slide your finger up the pendulum string, and you get a to and fro motion going. And at some point, the pendulum will go clockwise, and that's when you're in the resonance with the color red. And that's just a fundamental aspect of how you measure colors. So now you know the fundamentals of what we've been doing, and now we can go into the heart of what we're doing. But let's look at subtle colors and subtle vibrational colors just a little bit more. I said that it's not just the color, it's really, you're looking at the octaves and harmonics of that color. And a sound can be picked up by this method. You may look at the color red and you'll be picking up the note C. That may not be an accurate letter, but it's they are in resonance, and so you'll pick up these other energies. And you should look at color as energy, light, and look at ourselves and who we are and what we are. We are energy and light and thoughts. And in my books, I talk about Walter Russell, and matter is nothing more than spiraling light, spiraling energy, if you want to talk about it that way. So we are energy. It's just a denser form of energy. And we know that also from Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared. So energy and matter are very closely related. So subtle vibrational colors, it's part of virtually everything that we see. It's everywhere. You think, oh, subtle, it's not, subtle, so who cares? But that's really the nature of what everything is. It's an aspect of that. And so when we look at ourselves or look at plants and animals, angles, electromagnetic fields, etc., we're going to find vibrational energies associated with that. I should go through a little bit on how we discovered, or why Meg and I got together and how I got involved in this, just as an introduction to this. Most of this discussion will be on Meg's observations on the overall subtle energies of the body and biofield and all the changes that have occurred. But just for a little history on how we got together, I'll talk about that, because when I started looking at what Meg was doing, I said, well, it'd be interesting to see the energies of the aura around the head. And everyone goes to these fairs, and we all look at and probably have taken pictures of those auras. Those are not the auras that we are talking about. That's something else. But what we're looking at are the subtle vibrational energies around the head. And what I observed was that if you start looking at that, I did find splotches of colors around the head, around the left side of the brain, or left side of the head, or right side. And there are varying numbers of colors. Most of the time it's 2 or 3 colors, and sometimes it's 6 colors. And I've had some observations that those that you look at in terms of persons who are very loving, and they're known worldwide that way, they typically have violet auras around them, or colors associated with them. Those who are the opposite of that, they're not embodying it, typically have red. But it varies throughout all of the domain of persons around. So that was an observation. I did lots of studies on that, which I won't go through. But I noticed that people are born with these colors. I looked at my grandson, and yes, the colors were there. And one grandson had a color that's similar to mine. And so they are there. So is it the purpose there? Is it part of who we are, part of the control of where our direction of life is? Don't really know, but it's just an observation with regard to that. And everyone had these splotches of colors. And it was very, very interesting that they had it. Then on May 19th of last year, an amazing thing happened. On the 19th, we suddenly had a cloud of colors surrounding us. And that cloud had UV, white, and violet. So it wasn't these splotches of colors anymore. It was a sudden change. And the colors appeared in bands around the head. And here we see the bands in this particular picture of all the various colors with the green on the top. And that happened on the 19th of May. On the 20th of May, our pendulum started being non-responsive, so we couldn't detect these things, but everything returned to normal the following day with the new coloration of the cloud and the ribbons. And our pendulums again started working. So that was the beginning of something that, something is really happening, something amazing is happening. A week or so later, we looked at it. Okay, no more ribbons. Now we're enveloped in all colors. So now we have all the colors there, and it looked like a whitish color that was there that embodied all the various colors. So dramatic things are happening, and that got Meg and I to really start examining things in much detail, much more detail. She was doing it anyways, but we were now looking at it together, and I was mainly just corroborating what she was saying and observing. So there was a shift, and we observed the shift throughout the year, and things were happening month by month, day by day sometimes, but over a year, a lot of things happened. And we saw elimination of previous energetic structures. They just disappeared. There are changes in structures that happen. There are new and newly discovered structures that appeared. And the flows of energies, the subtle colors also change. So energetic flows were happening. This slide is a good one. And it's Meg's fantastic artwork that is being showed here. And much of it is, in fact, Meg's wonderful artwork. I put it together in different ways, but it's her work. And let's look at the figure on the left. That was March 19th. And this is what we looked like if we start examining ourselves, our body, our biofields, and the corona surrounding it and the area surrounding the corona. And much of this people aren't aware of, but let me go through this one because it's going to morph into what's on the right in this year. So what we observed is that in terms of the body, there is a biofield. It's about 5 to 6 feet across. It's an eggshell. There's an edge to that. That's the edge of what we call the eggshell. And there's a central column that goes through the body. And it's a 369 energy. And it has colors, the same colors that were on my chart before. And the colors reverse when it's dusk, and in morning and evening, basically. So you, in fact, have an eggshell surrounding the body that have the ribbons. And on the edge of that eggshell, you have yellow, the aura of the color yellow. And that color, when traced back, goes to the sun. And what's happening was that also surrounding the body, you have layers, like an onion, layers of 369 and BG3 layers. Again, for some of you, that may be new terminology, but these are energetic layers. In biogeometry, folks will call it the energies of harmony. 369 has qualities of harmony, but it's I look at it as the toroidal creation energies. So this is what everything looked like back in March. If we now jump to May, a few days ago, and even a week ago, the structure was a little different from this one, but most of the structure here was there. What we now have, we're now all white within us and within the biofield. It's all white, and the field is now larger, 7 feet across. And all colors means that, and we'll talk about all colors in more depth, but all colors of the rainbow that is there, that is shown here, are now part of that. And the strongest color is white. And so and what's happening now is that we are emanating that color. And that's the reason for these rays going out. It's not this blue that is there, but it's this representation, because you can't show white emanating out on a white background. So we have the emanations that are occurring, and they go out a good distance. It's not just your usual 4 or 5 or 6 feet. They go out, and significantly. So this one is a key slide because it shows what is happening, and it is representative of some of the other things that I'll be talking about. So I'll summarize a few of these things. In terms of energetic structures and changes in it, we see the larger biofield. We see the eggshell layer becoming thicker. In terms of the shifts of the central column of colors, it no longer does that. Everything is now all white with full color. And some other changes that we will be talking about is in the ancestral channels of the mother-father channels becoming one, but we'll get into that later on. But there are missing things also in this that are not necessarily shown in that slide. The chakra system has also changed. We all know the chakra system. We know its colors. We know it's the pinwheel rotational aspects of that. That has changed. Now, when you go to the chakras, there are centers of stillness, and there are the pinpoints with regard to that are the stillness centers. And so that is a dramatic change. The BG3 and 369 layers close to the body, no longer there. It's now represented by white. And it's 369 central channels, BG3 channels intersecting at the central channel. That's no longer there. Everything is now white with all colors, or for some, it's counterclockwise black with all colors. There are now new energetic structures that are there. We talked about white with all colors streaming out. That's new. That was not happening before. We will be talking about wings of time. It's a new energetic structure, and it represents, in quotes, life hoods and feminine, masculine aspects of it, and past and future aspects. And there's a new structure called rainbow deer, and I'll show pictures of that. And that's a new energetic structure that surrounds the head. Let's talk a little bit more about full color quality, because that is what we have become or becoming. And in terms of colors, typically we have to always talk about the 12 vibrational colors that are there, and these include the colors of negative green, black and white. And so the full colors we're typically talking about are the 9 basic colors that are there, including white, with white giving the strongest spin. And again, with regard to spin, everything is toroidal in nature, and it correlates with the center of stillness, which we talked about, correlates with that. So there's toroidal activities involved in all of this. And these fields, the full color quality prevents energies from stagnating or impregnating us. So it's something else that is entirely new. And it naturally harmonizes energies within us. And you can see that, and you may have already noticed this, those who know how to do the personal wavelength. And I do have, if anyone sends me emails, I'll tell them, I'll give you links of how do you do that. But you can find out if something is in harmony with you or not with a pendulum. And what you may have observed is that things that used to be that cause the pendulum to go clockwise, which represent harmony, you no longer need it. Or things that used to go counterclockwise that were dangerous to you, the pendulum may no longer go counterclockwise and just go to and fro. So these are things that you can observe that are happening to you without going into all the various colors. And the color of quality, the full color, it's not, let's put the various colors together and you get full color. No, it's a quality, just like the BG3 or 369 colors are qualities. It's the combined nature of this gives this quality. It's a single quality, single aspect. And that, in fact, is our new nature. It's part of our new resilience. And if you go into the woods and look at the various trees, you'll see that this aspect of full color in the center of things that are happening. Let's talk about activations for a while, because that is really the crux of what Meg discovered, that certain things happen and certain things trigger, and the triggering goes out and envelops the planet after a while. And so what do we mean by a trigger or energetic change? And for those who know biogeometry, you can think about the biosignature while you're looking at it, it'll cause an effect. Something's wrong with the heart or something else. And if you have to choose the right biosignature, things will happen and it'll be corrected for that time period. So what was happening with regard to us is that we now have, if something is being activated and someone observes it, and that can spread. And it's like the 100 monkey effect. And some of you may know about this effect. And the story goes that if one monkey found something that he could eat and it had to be cleaned first, and he cleaned it and now had more food, another monkey sees it and copy it, and okay, you got two monkeys, and pretty soon you have a whole colony of 100 monkeys doing it. And that phenomenon now becomes universal. All monkeys everywhere now have that effect, and they know this trick of doing this, of washing that food and increasing the food supply. And the duration of the effect, it can last for days or months, and it can ebb and flow into different ways. The colors may change. And we've observed that happening. We've observed indigo, UV, and orange infrared pairs moving to green and negative green pairs. But everything eventually, over a year's time, changes and it becomes white with full color. And those changes, the dramatic changes, really happened this year. But throughout the year, intermediate changes were being observed throughout that time period. And this slide is just another slide to get you more into the feel of activations and what's happening, because you may say, again, what is activation and how do you normally feel it? Well, the heart, gut, and brain are good indicators of feelings for you. When you're bonding with a child or another person, or you're reading a book to another person or watching a movie together, certain things activate. And for females, if you look at these activations and look at the color energies, the females will be receiving orange and infrared, and the males will be receiving indigo and ultraviolet. And you'll feel that in the heart, brain, and gut areas. And petting and in contact with a pet does the same thing. Women will send indigo UV to the pet, and they'll receive orange and infrared from the pet. And men, it's a slightly different color, orange, infrared to pet, and receiving infrared and UV. But that happens, And you may not be feeling those colors because you're not looking for it, but you know something is happening. When you stand in front of your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, you know what is happening. And so artwork does the same thing, and other types of things will do that. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But you may receive, women will receive orange infrared and men will receive indigo ultraviolet by looking at certain types of artwork, and they'll feel that in the heart, brain, and gut. You just may not be recognizing it in terms of a detail of a color. The artist is consciously or subconsciously tuning in and communicating what he's thinking or she's thinking out into the world. And this happens also with regard to the endocrine system. And so those colors are also happening and being communicated to the endocrine system, the hormones. And so things will happen with regard to the body. And again, you can trace it back to the orange infrared or indigo UV, whether you're talking about male, female, touching pets, putting the palm on another person, and go both ways. And relatively new, we're now getting infrared horizontal and ultraviolet horizontal coming in, and those will shift daytime, nighttime. Again, that's another thing that you notice, that sometimes things are shifted in terms of the day. And artwork does the same thing. Energies are being sent and it's affecting the endocrine system. And touch does the same thing, except that now everything is white, which is an amazing thing. And here are some of the things that do the activating, in addition to the artwork and pets and things of that nature. The aurora borealis is one key thing that is happening, that has the colors and has an effect on us. The eclipse had an effect. Crop circles have amazing energies, and I'll talk about that later on, when I talk about crop circles a little more, but they have amazing energies. Artwork, we talked about symbols, and we have an Om symbol there. Planets and stars have an effect. Paintings, geometric structures, all these things have an effect. And sometimes these energy exchanges can be traced to the galactic planets and orbits, and sometimes the higher self, or to the various four elements of fire, air, water, and things of that nature. So in terms of activations, I said that sometimes they switch directions. And when you talk about pineal gland, we'll see that, and the pituitary glands, we'll see that energies will be shifting. And we talked already about the colors are streaming now in both directions, and the colors have changed in that way. And we'll talk about some of the other changes that have occurred momentarily. And all this occurred and took a year to happen. Different time periods, different things happen. And they appear to be permanent things, but permanent is a loose word because we keep seeing new things happening. And Meg's daughter, Lizzie, has amazing artwork. And this is an example of a horse in which Meg used and had a lot of activations occurring to it. One horse is a mother, a daughter one had passed away, but Lizzie captured that. And Meg picks up a lot of this thing with the neutral pendulum and watching for clockwise swings of those pendulums, and then going and finding out what caused it. And I'm showing a couple of slides here of some artwork from Lizzie, simply because if you look at the artwork, you may find that it'll activate different organs, and you can find that it's connected to fire, air, water, or earth. And you can see that, and here's just a few more of that, and her Facebook pages is there where you can find some of these things. So, but it's just there to let you know that you can play with this on your own and not just take anything I say, check and do and test and learn how to test. And eventually Meg and I will start teaching how to do all these things, but the fundamentals are doable with almost no teaching. Anyone who knows anything about pendulums can pick up this ability, and it's something that everyone has. So there have been a number of major activations, and this is just a list of them and I'll just mention them, but I'll be going through each of these so you can see what is in fact happening. So we'll talk about brain balancing, the sun connection with aura changes, the heart center, pineal pituitary, the heart, gut, brain changes, ancestral channels, the wings of time, rainbow deer structures, palms and adrenals. So this is just a listing of things that were happening. And in terms of brain balancing, these are some of the aura borealis things that were resulting in it in the April-May timeframe. And in the May timeframe, that's when the first of the chakras became still centers. And that was the crown chakra. So this slide is interesting because it talks about the brain balancing and exchange of energies. And let's go to the male and female figure in the center first. If a male and a female are standing in front of each other, there's energies coming in, but there's energies going to the person they're standing in front of. So males will be sending the indigo UV, and females will be sending the orange infrared. And this is an easy thing for a person to test. Well, because everything has changed, it's maybe a little harder. And you may now look at the weight of the colors that are there, but you can probably detect that. But back then, you can observe that. And some of these energy changes, you do have the ability to go back in time too. Many of you may not realize that, but everything are thoughts. And you just have to have the thought of, I want to be in January 2023. And if you go back to that time, just by that statement alone, you'll start detecting these other colors. So that's part of your ability that you all have and don't realize that you have. So that's happening with the male, female, and you can see what's happening in the figures on the right of where they are in the shoulders and in the centers of the body, in the thigh area, in the feet area. And in biogeometry, they have a structure called structure for brain balancing. And it's that structure on the left. And the left part of that structure is the female side, and the right is the male side. And lo and behold, you find the same energy structures. And this is a discovery by Meg. So this is not something that is established, but this was there and it was discovered. And you have the same structure of energy exchanges happening. Very, very interesting. So the male and side or female side and the left and right side of the brain have the same property. And the brain stands, these are called brain stands. And the purpose of the brain stands were really to coordinate the right and left brains so that if a person is pure left brain and wants to ask a little more of the right brain, they can stare at that figure and they'll get that exchange going on. They'll be able to have more of the right brain and vice versa. So that was the purpose of creating that brain stand. So brain balancing activations, crop circles, and here is where I'll talk about crop circles. Lucy Pringle, author of The Energies of Crop Circles, The Science and Power of Mysterious Intelligence. She's really done an amazing job of looking at crop circles and noticed that crop circles were healing. So there's energies involved in those crop circles. And I listened to a talk by Gary Plapp. He's a dowser, and he was stating that these crop circles have amazing levels of energies, and you can detect that with the Bovis chart. And I did. I checked it, and there are sometimes hundreds of millions of units on these charts, which means that they are extremely high energy. And those people who get into these structures, if they are of an energy structure that high energy disturbs them, they'll be disturbed by these crop circles. But yeah, very interesting stuff. And I won't go through the electromagnetic waves producing lights in the sky, etc. But Lucy Pringle talks about all these things and how aurora borealis and crop circles are amazing things. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about sun connection with regard to activations. And I talked a bit about that, but back in the earlier part of 2023, we were linking to the sun. So when Meg did the links, it was connected to the sun. It was a yellow wave connecting from the corona of our body, our biofield, connecting to the sun. And then in May of that year, the yellow of the rays of the sun were now coming to the corona of the biofields. And so now there was an interchange of that ray of the yellow. And when and it was now it was happening gradually. Few people were getting it as Meg was following it. More and more people got the interchange until it became universal at some point last year. And now the change has become white with all colors. And that is what is being observed now. Okay, a little more on the sun connection. These auroras in the sculpture Medusa in the crop circle will cause the energies to connect with 6 corona spots around our heads, palms, and feet. This is a little more information on this particular slide, but it has to do with the heart center. And what we're observing is that there's connection with regard to it. And there's certain energies, green, UV, negative green, and infrared. And we're observing those coming into the heart center. And we see the orbits of Venus, Earth, or the orbits of Chiron, Pluto, having that effect and having those and sending out those energies. And interesting, the center of the galaxy is having these same energies being sent out. And interesting also, the BG3 layer of the biofield closest to the body becomes 369 and has these same energies that are there. Then certain symbols are being affected in addition, and certain numbers are being affected. And Ohm used to, and the archaeometer used to have certain energies that were positive. It slowly became counterclockwise to the personal wavelength. And then the energies became weaker. And then you saw first you saw the counterclockwise, and you saw the sending of green and ultraviolet and negative green and infrared to the biofields. And then you saw some other things happening. You see some of these energies pause and then resume. And then finally, you get the full color and happening. And that happened on May 6th. So throughout the year, various things were happening with these energies. And if you're not looking at these things, you'll never find them. We talked about energies exchanging within the body. And this is a very clear one with regard to the green, negative green and the orange, infrared, and indigo ultraviolet. So for a large part of the year, you see the pattern of the pituitary and pineal having this interchange of basically the male energies and female energies happening. Then at some point during that year, it switched. So the energies switched from, if it were going male to, if you're going from pituitary to pineal, it'll switch to go from pineal to pituitary. And then it switched again, going to green and negative green. And there was an artwork were signaling these changes. The heart, gut, brain activation. And we talked a bit about that. And so probably no need to go into depth on this one, but you did see in July, August, the triggering of energies to these areas of the green, violet, horizontal, negative green, and infrared with these structures that are shown here. Something new is ancestral channels. And a little background on that was discovered by Eileen McCusick, and she's a sound expert, and she works with tuning forks. And she has the ability of taking a tuning fork that is vibrating of a particular type, bring it into the body, and watching the sound disappear as it activates some particular area, and then goes through further on, the sound comes back. So it's intriguing. So she's an expert at dealing with tuning forks. And she discovered something called ancestral channels. And there's a side 1 foot from the body, 1 feet from the body is the mother channel, and 1 feet to the other side of the body is the father channel. And before Meg confirmed all this with radiesthesia. So she is probably the first person to observe this with regard to radiesthesia. And all these energies are exchanges within the system itself, not from without. So this is before the activation were occurring. With activation from July 4th, the energies were coming from outside, and some new energies were coming in. I won't go through the details of that because those are details and you're not going to remember it or see it anyways. But with activation, new energies were in fact coming in. And then the energies changed to white with rainbow. That is, all the colors, full colors were happening. And also coming in from the bottom as being observed here. Let's go to the next one. Then a month ago or 2 months ago, another dramatic change occurred. These ancestral channels merged, flowed together, and now is in the central column or a central channel. So this is what you see, and then you see the toroidal field of the biofield that is there. So white with all colors, connection with the higher self flows to and from central channel and eggshell of toroidal field. So that's what happened in February. And this is amazing stuff. Another thing that is new, and another person that Meg has been working with, Yolanka, helped discover all of this and pointed it out to Meg. But the wings of time is a new structure. There's ribbons now connecting to other life hoods. And there are masculine and feminine aspects of it. And they enter from the solar plexus in the front and cross over to the back and into the back spinal area from the top to the bottom. And these are some of the things that activated that. And Meg looked at one of my sculptures and said, yeah, that does it too. So here's what happens in terms of the ribbons. And if you look at the ribbons and you are looking for the subtle energies, they can be found. And they come off, if you have your arms outstretched, 10 degrees and 20 degrees out from that, you'll find on the front, the male aspects to the left. Those are the blue ribbons, and on the to the right, and 20 degrees and 10 degrees to down from outstretched arms, you see the feminine structures that are there. So, I'm not going to go into any details of it, but that is a new structure that was seen. Another new structure is the reindeer activation, rainbow reindeer activation. And it is something that is very esoteric in my mind. But if you look for these structures, they are there. And reindeers were considered sacred animals in Europe, and the female reindeer especially was considered the sacred, and they kept their horns. They had horns and they kept it, whereas male deers may not be, would shed their antlers in winter. And so the female deers had a structure above their head. They call it the solar disc. And above the ears, you have the licorn, horn of vision. In the forehead, you see the structure that's there with regard to the, I guess you call it the pineal area in the center of the forehead. But if you look for these structures, you have these structures that are there, and these are very, very intriguing areas. And so the licorn is above the area of the third eye. And here are from YouTube from Carolyn Wise, some structures, and the structures in her quilts show the licorn in front of the ears, the solar disc, and the third eye, and then the central channel that's there. And so you have structures on higher petroglyphs that show the same thing. And so, again, something that is very, very intriguing, that is new in terms of structures. Let's now shift gear a little bit and talk a little bit about the physical world. And a lot of activations are occurring, so we're not going to go into depth on this particular area, but I'll just show you a few things that are in fact happening, because things are changing, and no need to go into things that are changing. But I'll show a few things. There's a green wave that flows south to north about a foot or less above the surface of the earth, and that has disappeared. This is interesting. Back towards November of last year, homes started becoming still centers. The whole house became still centers with full color. And that's something that is brand new. And really haven't talked about centers and what they are, but I'll chat a little bit about that, and just so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you'll be lost with this slide. If you have a hurricane, and in the center of the hurricane will be stillness. Everything else is whirling, swirling with wind. In the center is stillness. So instead of, usually it's a pinpoint that is still. If you start trying to talk about energies in the body and things, but here we have the full house being the center of that and correcting. And it was being observed in one house, 2 houses, 10 houses, 100 houses, 1,000 houses. And pretty soon, a huge number of houses were turning into centers of stillness in full color. Pets and animals became full color. So things are happening that are causing all this to occur. I won't go into depth with regard to this because I did a lot of work with elements, but I'm not going to talk about that other than to say that Meg and I both found that elements had different colors. The colors would change geographically and in terms of both time and geography. So one can never lock into the colors. And these are multiple colors, about 4 or 5 colors. And all elements had this, and I found commonalities between rows of elements. But what happened is that in February 2024, all elements became full color. All colors were there. Amazing thing. Same thing happened with Schumann frequencies. If you map Schumann frequencies, you'll find colors associated with them, and they vary with time. But again, by February 10th, when I looked at this, all colors, you saw still centers and you saw all colors. So what does all this mean? Let's talk about that. And this is subject to interpretation. And yeah, this is me talking now. So let's talk about metamorphosis. Caterpillars can become butterflies. Is that what's happening to us? Or we becoming our true essence, our true self, whatever that means. And we were all separate colors. We have all these separate colors associated with us. They're gone now. What does that mean? Does that mean some oneness of all kind of colors? Some oneness with regard to who we are becoming? Who knows? But that is part of metamorphosis and whatever is happening. Some of you may know about the law of one and the raw contact, and I'm not going to go through that, but just the law of one is something that is there. They talk about it's channeling information, and it talks about moving from, at this time, from 3rd density to 4th density. 3rd density is the way things were or are, and are we moving into the 4th density, which is more the density of love? Is that what is happening? And that's probably all I'll say about it, unless there's questions afterwards. And everyone knows growing up, a child becomes an adult, things happen to the body. Do we always know what is happening exactly? Yeah, hormones change, but why, and timing and everything else. So that's the time of, in a certain sense, a metamorphosis is happening. So it's now the time of love and wisdom starting to emerge, and that may be happening. But let's talk a little bit more about metamorphosis. So I created a couple of slides to talk about it, and I call this becoming, because we're becoming full color. We're becoming centers of stillness. And now we are radiating this energy. And so we talked about what a vortex is, so I won't go through that. It is a vortex, water spiraling down a drain or a hurricane. But the center is an interesting area. The center is a balancing point. It's a fulcrum. When you're meditating or you're repeating one of Yohim's affirmations, and Yohim's very good at this, he creates that center of stillness that is there. And just stating the affirmations, you create that. You're reaching that. And so the point of harmony, the point of stillness is something that is happening and something that is becoming. And within that, we have the full color. And the fulcrum, I mentioned that concept, but that comes from, not from me, it comes from Walter Russell. He talks about the fulcrum where everything is in fact center, and from which that everything is derived from that center. At this point, we are in balance. And at that point, we have the essence of the full quality of full color. And there's harmony. It's the essence of harmony, and healing occurs in this area if we bring ourselves to this point, and our mind is in that point. And our feelings are that we are connected to all. There is a oneness at this point. And if we're looking and dowsing and looking at personal wavelength, detrimental energies, a lot of times will no longer be harmful to us. And energies that were no longer are. Energies that we needed because it's needed because it showed clockwise rotation, you may not need it any longer. And we are now radiating this color. So what else is happening? We are everything. We are light and waves. Humanity is now all colors. All elements are now all full colors. Colors of the physical structures are changing. As Yolanka says, we are thoughts, and we create with thoughts. We create with using words and light and waves. But that's who we really are. And we activate, and we are more than we are. And when Meg goes ahead and does a correction and knows his activations, and her husband and daughter and family and friends are activated, the 100 monkey phenomenon occurs. And that is happening in the world. We're no longer separate. We are one. And we are evolving. We are radiating these lights and these energies. And we're no longer many energies. We are one energy. And detrimental things are no longer as detrimental to us now as we are evolving. And we're connected. We think that, oh, we're just connected to each other here and there, we're next to each other. No, we're connected to everything. And the galaxy and the stars and planets are next door neighbors, and we are connected to them, and we're connected to everyone else. And all that is in fact happening. And that's the reason when I talk in my books, you can send a subtle energy from my room to across the world instantaneously. And I teach that in my books. And you can do that. That's because everything is becoming one. I'm going to close with Yolanka's affirmation. He's phenomenal at bringing still center and the full colors to you. And he teaches it by his affirmations. And anytime you're near him and he states his affirmations, you're in that still center. And while we're doing all this work on subtle colors, he was doing work on his affirmations. And his latest set of affirmations is an affirmation of connection. And as we see each other, we now see each other in clearer light. We are now becoming one. So his affirmations I'm stating are affirmations that bring in stillness and bring in the full color also. And he says, I see every thought. If you want to re-see these things, it's even more powerful. I re-see every thought. So these thoughts are going around and re-seeing it. Re-see these thoughts. And you can I invite every thought to rethink and re-see. And then I see you. That acknowledges you, acknowledges who we each are. We are everything, and we are all connected. And if we acknowledge that, problems of the world actually goes away. If everyone says, I see you, and truly mean, I see you, we are connected and everything is connected, and wars and everything else disappear. So with that, thank you. I'll stop sharing, and Meg can answer a lot of questions because she knows answers to a lot of these things.
Thank you, Jerry. Meg, do you want to jump in? Is there anything you want to add before we go to questions, or do you want to go straight to questions?
I guess I would just emphasize one little thing. Thank you, Jerry. You did an amazing job, as always. I really appreciate you. I see you. But just maybe one little thing to emphasize a little bit is that with the activations, it's just so amazing because we have worked hard to get symbols and structures and things in our homes that, you know, bring these positive energies. And here you just look briefly at a symbol or a picture or something, and that starts this activation that continues on. That's what it was so astounding to me, is that I can measure it well after looking at it, months after looking at it, it's still going on. So right now, the activations all had a pause right after the lunar eclipse, March 25th, and then they all came back online somewhere about the middle of April. And so right now, all of those major activations are continuing on. We're getting this amazing white with all color connections to all of these different aspects, to the central sun, to our higher selves. And now what's going on now, new things, is that we're starting to get connections to the elements. And when Jerry shared those two slides with all the pictures of Lizzie's paintings, that's an example of what's happening now. We're getting a lot more going on with the Aurora Borealis, and it's continuing. So just so you know, we're still going. I don't know where we're going, but it's fun.
Can you tell me, so you know, we talk a lot about activations. People talk about spiritual activations from gurus and activations from different planets. And just for my own curiosity, what is triggering this? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from the central sun? Are they coming from within the earth? Are they, can you define activations a little more?
So the trigger is that you look at something. So the something is either the northern lights or crop circles or some paintings, and often they all come around the same time. So they're clustering to, say, the brain activation. So that began with the aurora, and then shortly after, all these crop circles pictures were being shared around. So the more people that share in on the activation through different viewings, they may be, you know, some saw the auroras, some saw the crop circles, some saw certain paintings. So I think we're bringing this up from our collective subconscious. And so it's the thought of all of humanity, basically, that's bringing it up. And I like to think of it as a huge tuning fork. You know, we're sending this out and then we get it back to us, and then we're sending it out and it's coming back to us. So, but I can douse where the connection is going to. So that's why we categorize the different types of activations. They have a certain point that they're, or points in the body or biofield that they're activating. So we'll call it like the brain balancing activation. And all of those points were the same ones as you saw in those figures with all the orange and blue dots. So you could check the middle of your thigh right now if you know how to measure, and you should be able to see a white wave coming to and from if you know how to measure, you know, a flow. Some people use the Terren pendulum to show a directional flow, but you can also just use it with the intention of looking for a flow.
So it sounds like this is a planetary phenomenon, right? It feels like, yeah. And you guys really feel, it sounds like you're really tracking the evolution of our consciousness, right? How and I have heard other things about the development of energetic structures in the human biofield, you know, at the crown and at the base of the spine as well. I think this information is it's kind of universal, and I love that it correlates so well with other things that I'm hearing. So one of the questions we had was, what do we do with this, right? What do we do with this information? Is there a way? Do we just ride this wave? Is there a way for us to facilitate, to you know, accelerate our evolution? how do you approach this for yourself?
Well, I think awareness, attention and awareness are so important. So just knowing that you have these structures and then just starting to pay attention to them, you'll start to feel it just having talked about it tonight. I guarantee you, you're going to lay in bed and go, oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think one of the signs that I've been seeing, is the increase in synchronicities are starting to happen. If people are paying attention, it's like I want to say the universe is conspiring for our growth.
The more you pay attention to synchronicities, I mean, to me, the universe is dying to communicate with us. It's like, hello, you guys been listening? And as soon as we start actually listening, it has so much more fun with us. We're in the game then. Nature loves to talk with us, but we just walk right past and don't, stop to talk. So, yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing we can do is we radiate, I see you. We radiate the white energies because we are really connected to everybody. So if there's somebody that you want to radiate that energy, you're just radiating it. And just by being yourself, if you're in that state of love and positiveness, that changes the world. So if more and more people do that, and more people say, I see you, it changes the world. It's the boat, the ship on the ocean. If the vibrational energy goes up, the ship goes up. And that's what we want to happen in the world. When it's high enough, the stuff that's happening in the world that we see today, it can't happen. If you are love and you are the essence of love, and now you see everybody because you see who they are, and now there's communications occurring. Communication is all that's necessary, and the stuff that everyone else will see that if we're at that state, you can't shoot a person that is your friend because now you see them. You
That
may have
person is
an opinion, but who cares?
Right? Tamara mentioned I see you as a greeting in the movie Avatar. I don't know if you remember that. But I was thinking the same thing, Tamara. So I love how art reflects kind of what's happening. So we have a couple of questions that are kind of just basic logistic questions. Like, can you redefine what a neutral pendulum is?
Sure. Neutral pendulum. Here's a neutral pendulum. And if you have a pendulum, especially if you're new, if you're very advanced, you can do other things. But if you're new, you don't want the pendulum to be in resonance with things that it shouldn't be. If you have a quartz pendulum, it'll resonate with anything that has quartz in it, and it'll do its thing of going clockwise. If you have something that doesn't have energies associated with it, or have very little, because wood will have some energy associated with it, but it has very little. And flour will have some energy, but flour and salt won't have that much. So therefore, you have a pendulum that will not necessarily resonate unless you want it to resonate. If you're looking at a color red or color blue or whatever, or your cell phone or whatever it is you want to do, or yourself, it'll resonate with whoever your mind connects with. And then it'll go clockwise when it's in resonance and when the string length is of that length. So that's the reason you use a neutral pendulum for that purpose. And for any beginner, a neutral pendulum is the thing to get. And if not, you don't fail. If you don't have an acrylic ball, a wooden pendulum, and they're relatively cheap. And in my book, I teach persons to make a pendulum. The Seeker and the Teacher of Light mix flour and salt together to make a dough. And so you have dough, make a ball out of it, punch a little hole in it. You now have the hole, and you put some glue in it later on when it dries. you have a neutral pendulum. It's that simple to make a neutral pendulum. Yeah, but that I don't know if I answered that question, but that's just my answer to it.
Yeah, and this is from Maren. She wanted to know, would you call the white of all colors the same as crystalline in its qualities?
Crystalline has another type of meaning in my mind, at any rate. In terms of light, the white light of the sun or whatever has all colors in it. But here, you're looking at, if you happen to look at each of the colors and look at the subtle energies of each of the colors, we're using a neutral pendulum. You go to each of the colors on that color chart I had, and you'll find that each of those 9 colors are there when you have something that is full color. If you create that center of stillness by saying, your I am affirmations, or your house is full color, and you look at that, you'll find that all those colors are in there. The quality of all those colors are there, and that's what we're talking about. So it's not the crystalline has various meanings to it, and if your meaning is all colors, that might be okay. But the typical meaning of the colors is not necessarily crystalline.
Okay. Meg, do you want to answer the questions from the Q&A, or do you want me to ask them?
Okay, you can ask them. I don't think I saw any more than what I thought I answered.
Okay. I have a couple of questions that have come in from YouTube as well. So one question. So when people meditate, historically with the colors of the chakra system, does that not work anymore? Should we be meditating with just white light in that chakra system now?
I think so. I don't think that, well, we're still kind of exploring what has all changed, but it seems as if they're white still centers now. So
yeah, and when you're meditating, also you're bringing your essence of yourself to that stillness, and that stillness probably has the qualities of full color associated with it, and so you're stilling the mind, or the affirmations allow you to come to that stillness. And that's all that is probably necessary. Yes, meditation, you can repeat a mantra, you can do various things, and you'll get to the same level. The beauty of the affirmations is that you can do this very quickly. By making the statement, I am rethinking, rethink I am, it's a spiral. You may not know what that means, but you're rethinking I am, and that'll spiral you into your essence. And that essence has that quality of stillness built into it. And the world is now cooperating and creating that within all of us and within our houses. So we all are becoming that aspect of us. That's my thought.
Excellent. A question about how this relates to the current maximum solar flare activity. Is solar flares?
there does seem to be a connection between the solar flares and the aurora borealis. So yeah, we definitely see an uptick in the activations when there are solar activations. Somebody had a question about how we see these things at the same time, how like Jerry and I happen to see. So usually what has happened is I see them first, and then I say, look at what's happening. And then I have friends and including Jerry measure too. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty quick to pick them up. I have a little Geiger counter that goes off and says, look, and they start coming at me all at the same time, very synchronistically. And it's like, oh, here it is, here it is, here it is. 3 times I know this is happening. That's how it started to come about.
Yeah, Meg has amazing abilities to see these things and to pick them up. Way, way, way stronger than my abilities to do so. But your abilities increase with practice. And I found that with practice, I can pick up the energies fairly quickly with the pendulum, and I can measure the quantities of these energies. And so for healing purposes, I can look at something and know how much full quality of energy there is just by understanding energies and understanding the ability of a pendulum to pick up quantities. So I have things that I've been working with that pick up huge amounts of these energies, and some things can make huge amounts of these energies. So, and all those will have probably certain properties. I have not investigated all of them, but these are things that you practice doing it. You first start doing it by just getting that color chart and see if red is different from purple and different from yellow, and you'll see that they're different. And then you go to something that is full color or something else that has a whole series of other colors, and you'll see that they're different. And you'll see that the wavelength of red is not the same wavelength of yellow. So those are the beginning steps of how to do this. And you practice doing these types of things. And if you have the BG3 ruler, you can look at how much something gives off a particular color. Okay, what color does it give off? How much is it? And you can do that, and you get to learn levels of energies. And that's useful for many, many things that you want to do. So it's practice more than anything else. Everyone has ability. And the only thing you have to really learn is on a pendulum is it goes back and forth sideways or in a circle clockwise and counterclockwise. And that's it. That's all the steps that you need to learn. It's like you're learning to walk and run. You learn to put one foot in front of the other. Once you've done that a number of times as a baby, you're walking and you're in balance. But yeah, you got to try it. If you just sit there and crawl all the time, you're not going to do it. But if you do it and practice it, it's there. And then you can learn the personal wavelength. I gave a talk recently to the Lone Star dowsers on doing the personal wavelength. I gave an hour talk on that, and also on the I am, and I have that link, and it teaches you how to do some of these fundamental things, and it's just practice. That's all it is. We all are gifted. We just have to believe that we are and do it. It's the step of doing it that's so hard. If you do it, it's there.
So there's a question from YouTube about that, about like how to measure, like specifically how to measure colors. That's all on your YouTube channel and in your books, right? Those are those kind of specific steps.
I do talk about it. I do have some YouTube channel. I do talk about some of these things, and it's easy to do. If you have a color blue, for example, I'll just show it to you really quick. And here's a color blue. My mouse is blue, and I hold the pendulum here at the tip of where the weight is, and I just get to go to and fro, and I slip my finger up the string, and at a certain point, pendulum goes clockwise, and now I'm in resonance with the color blue. If I do another color, black, and do that, it'll just go back and forth. It's actually that simple, but yeah, if you do it with yourself, you'll have some amazing abilities of going to any grocery store and looking at foods and saying, oh, this is in resonance with me and this is not in resonance with me. And whether it be organic or not organic, and you know what is good for you. So these things have a lot of utility. It's worthwhile learning, in other words.
Mayor wanted to know if you're familiar with the term homo luminous from the Andean shamans, describing kind of what the next stage of our evolution is. Have you heard of that, homo luminous?
No.
Barbara Marx Hubbard talked about, I think, homo universalis, or, people are kind of talking about what that next stage of our evolution might look like, and coming up with names for it. Is there a preference of salt when making a neutral pendulum? Celtic.
It's just a little bit of binding or whatever it does to it. But yeah, all the I forgot how much is in it, but my book talks about it, or anyone sends me an email, I'll copy it from the book, and it's any salt will work. Table salt since it's common, we have it, is what I normally do with regard to it. Or you buy a wooden pendulum. Making your own pendulum is good. Then there's a better chance that you'll use it and practice with it, and because you've now made something that will work. And in a thin string, you should get a white string, is good to use. And all you need to do is a little bit of the quick the glue that dries real fast, and put that on the hole and on the string, and stick it in, and you've got a pendulum. Make it round is harder, because you make it round, it'll deform when you put it on a surface. So you have to put it on a bed of flour. So that's the trick.
So Zahid has a question, and he's joining us from Azerbaijan. Oh my gosh, amazing, welcome. He said every human body interprets the vibrations coming from the universe differently, right? We're all tuned differently. What processes can be undertaken to perceive and accept them normally? And there was a very similar question that came in from YouTube about, processes to normalize this, or maybe that's not the right word.
Unify, or have them be more like everybody else's, uniformly. Is that the word?
Maybe, or maybe just to kind of of course I'm not thinking of the word, but just to make to equilibrate within our own energetic systems.
Let me put it this way. I'm not sure there's such a thing as equilibration, but there's such a thing as increasing your vibrational energy so that the energy flows within you, so that it's easier to have the pendulum work. And it's in my jerrygin.com website, and there's something called securing your resonance. And that's a couple of very simple steps. It's a 3-step process of doing that. The first step is, if you're a female, I invite my left brain to join with my right brain, to join with my heart. And just that statement alone, and you bring your arms out and pull it together as you're making that statement, increases, you're now combining your brain and your heart together, and words matter. So you're doing that, and the energy vibration of your body, boom, goes up. And when a pendulum is not moving, or an L rod's not moving, as soon as you make that statement, it starts moving, because now the energies are flowing in your body. And that's a very important way of getting yourself energized. And then what we commonly do, or I commonly do, and Yohim has taught this, and this is all from Yohim, by the way, is that you state an affirmation. You can say, I am rethinking, rethink I am. And just that statement alone increases your vibrational rate tremendously. And then you can there's another one that will bring your property into harmony, so that if something in your property is messing things up, they'll bring it into harmony. So those are the 3 steps, and that one you can look up in the affirmation, in the securing your resonance part of the jerrygin.com. And I think I also talk about it in my YouTubes too. But that's definitely something to do every time you do testing. It's just a good, healthy practice.
Do you recommend that people start using only neutral pendulums and not things that they've been using, like quartz and brass and things like that?
No, the different pendulums will have different purposes, and those other pendulums have very good purposes. The dowsers are a big group of folks, and they don't use the neutral pendulum except when they're taught radiesthesia. They use the quartz and everything else. And so, especially if you're using mental dowsing, you're asking a question, and there may be energies associated with it, but it is mental dowsing, and it does work. And some of these mental dowsing is really radiesthesia. They just may not realize that, because they're looking at energies and letting the energies give the answers to them, and they think they're just dowsing mentally. or whatever they're doing, but it gives the answers. But really, you're communicating with the energies of whatever it is that you're making some questions on, whether it be food or supplements or another mineral. Is it good for you or not? All these things. Once you have the technique of personal wavelength, you don't ask questions anymore. You just do a quick check and you have that immediately. The answer is this supplement any good for me? I'm taking it. Does it do any good for me? Well, you'll know that answer immediately and you don't have to guess. And that's the beauty of the personal wavelength. And personal wavelength is just looking at yourself, looking at the top of your hand and getting, so I'll just teach a personal wavelength very quickly to everybody, since it's such a basic thing. Go to the top of your hand, do the same thing that I did with the color, just get the pendulum swinging, and at some point, the pendulum goes clockwise. That's you. Now, if you put your hands over anything, if it continues to go clockwise, you're okay with it. If it goes counterclockwise, don't eat it. It's bad for you. If it just goes back and forth, well, it's not going to do anything to you, but if you want to eat it, go ahead or use it. And it's that simple of a technique. And I think everyone should use that simple technique on most things. So yeah, it's good to carry a pendulum around with you all the time. And if you're a dowser, a lot of times you can pick up on the energies, and they may use a finger thing. Is it easy to bring your finger through a couple of between your thumb and index finger, and how hard it is to do it? Or they'll look at something, and if their body leans backwards, it's not good for you. If it leans forward, it's good for you. So these are tricks that dowsers use. And so you don't need a pendulum, but I find the pendulum very useful. And Yohim loves his L rod, and it's a wonderful tool, and I love it too also. And he does magic with it.
Okay, so we just have a couple more questions. One is there any correlation between how our biofields are changing and how weather is manifesting, extreme weather, thunderstorms, tornadoes? Is there an interaction between the human biofield and the elements, the weather?
I'm not sure I have a good answer. I don't know, Meg, if you have an answer to that question. I think lots of things are happening, and lots of things are affecting us all the time. And being home, being in your essence of I am, will quiet lots of things from happening. And Yohim sees me a lot of times. I'm not home because my mind is at work or elsewhere, or I have 100 things to do. And weather can be one aspect of it. So coming home and stating an affirmation is the way to do it. And being home is what one really should be at most of the time. And Yohim's favorite statement is, I don't want to be away from home more than a few minutes every hour. That's extreme because not many people can do that. But to do that more and more and be more at home and to be in that relative state of your essence is where one should be. And that is doing the world good when you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Patient
love
goes up when you do that.
Yeah, I love that. It always comes back to we are part of the whole, right? And anything that we're doing to increase our vibration or to further our evolution personally affects the whole. And I love that because it's so reassuring. I think sometimes it can get a little, you think, oh God, people can get feel pretty isolated and pretty lonely. So it's a good thing to remember. Just a
being home gets away from being lonely. If you're home, you're at peace.
So Tamara says whenever there's a coronal mass ejection, it changes our the electromagnetics of our body and planet. Of course, there's a lot of that going on right now, a lot in the next couple of days as well. Jackie wanted to know that you mentioned, she said you mentioned the Bovis chart. She wanted to know if you have any of the work from Dr. Oscar Brunler. Dr. Brunler's mind radiation charts. Are you familiar with those?
No, I'm not familiar with that. Gary Platt pushes the Bovis chart, and let's see, another gal, Andrea, forgot her last name, has another chart derived from that. And I find the Bovis chart to correlate very much with the biogeometry, the BG3 chart. The numbers I get from that chart and the biogeometry chart, there's a good correlation.
Okay, so we're coming up to the end here, and I wanted to ask you to just let us know how we can get in touch with you, where we can get more information, if people want to follow up with you about what's going on, or if they have questions as time progresses. What's the best way to get a hold of you and find your work?
Yeah, just take my name, jerrygin.com, and that's my email address, jerry@jerrygin.com. So that's to have the first jerry@jerrygin.com. We'll have that, and it's on my website also. It's if you see that. So that's one way to get hold of me.
And when will your new book come out? Do you know?
Problem has been that it keeps changing, and we think that if we put it together this way, we can now put the right introductions and everything else around it, and then the world morphs. And then, okay, we haven't thought of that, and how shall that all come to being? So I probably throw that to Meg and see if Meg's working very hard at putting things together. And I'm going to work my way around what she puts together. So in the sense that hers will be the essence of it, and mine will be the surrounding areas of it. That's how I'm seeing it. I'll have my own certain areas, and I'll probably throw in some other things like the stuff of Yohim and thoughts in other areas. But that's how I'm sort of envisioning all this coming together. So I'm waiting for the completion of Meg's putting stuff together.
And Meg, are you open to having people contact you? Do you have a website?
I don't have a website, but we do have a group, a Telegram group. So and Jerry and I will be talking more about getting something together for beginners, because my Telegram group is more for people who've been at least doing some of this, because I don't want it to be too beginnery. So at least somebody who knows how to dowse and can detect colors and things. But if people are that far along and want to join in on the discovery, then I would invite them to join our group.
Okay, and people can find that out by going through Jerry, yes, through his website.
Yeah, I say the book, by the way, should come out by the end of this year. That's certainly our goal, and it'll take a few more months to pull it all together. But much of it has, in fact, been written, and it's just pulling the bits and pieces and the changes, because there are a lot of changes that have been going on. And we didn't really talk about all the changes. Every month something else was happening. And the summary of things that I presented today, I was just pulling that stuff together a couple of nights ago, simply because I didn't see all the things that were happening in quite the light that I see things right now. I saw a lot of it, but the gist of things coming together is I'm getting much more clarity on it. And I think we needed that clarity to get the story out properly.
Yeah.
If in the middle of the year, we put it together, and I was trying to get Meg to complete it last year, you'd only have gotten a fraction of what you got today. You'd seen the activations and the changes, and you knew something was happening, but you wouldn't get the conclusions that we had today. That's there, and there are a lot more conclusions that we have not talked about, and those are for the future, because there are many things that are in fact happening, and it keeps us so very busy because they are important things that are happening.
Well, it seems like the changes are coming fast and furious right now. And as I used to tell my children, we're nothing if not flexible. We're gonna pivot, and ride that wave, because it is a time of intense change and evolution and growth. And I'm so glad to have these tools and to just connect with everyone who is aware of this and who's in the same boat together. And so I want to thank you both this evening, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your great questions, and we will see you next time. Okay, have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
See you.
I
Not
see you.
goodbye. See you.
See you. I see you.